Rise, rise, shine, give God the glory, glory, rise, shine, give God the glory, glory, rise, shine, give God the glory, glory, soldiers of the Lord. Welcome to Free to Hope with Edwina B, y'all, known as Miss Cuckoo for Cocoa Pops. I am here yelling from Dallas, Texas, here with my granddaughter's cheerleading competition. So when you see people going in and out in the doors, making all kinds of noise, I have no control over it, right? So thank God that I've learned to use that serenity prayer. God, grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference, because the God that I now know woke me up this morning, woke you up this morning, and we should give him the honor, the praise, the glory, the hallelujah, and most importantly, the acknowledgement. Why? Because he chose us for this day to rise, to rise, to rise. And so I want to again welcome you to Free to Hope, and y'all know what that stands for, right? From recovery, emerge empowered to give hope to others, help others prosper equally. Now we have a lot to cover today, but just from the interaction so far, have you sensed my transparency? Have you sensed my authenticity? Well, guess what? The way I am here is the way I will be in person. So if you need a keynote speaker, a representative, a trainer, a facilitator, a presenter, you can have me. Just call me, okay? Because I want to be able to share with you what the God that I now serve done for me 34 years ago. Free to hope, from recovery, emerge, empowered to give hope to others. Now, how did I do that? Well, on February the 22nd of 1990, I was underneath a parked car. Yes, I was getting high and doing all kinds of sexual favors for my own stepson. And he wanted to beat me up like any bitch in the street. So while underneath that parked car, my life flashed before me. The rapes, the beat ups, trying to commit suicide. I even committed murder as a prostitute. I had an abortion because I didn't want to know. I didn't want the world to know who the father was. See, I took life because of the mask, because of the image. And guess what? I wasn't informed at the time and did not know that my God had already forgiven me, because he already knew I was going to do those things, right? But I didn't know. And so my addiction just spiraled down until I cried out underneath that parked car, whoever they say you are, take me out this life now or show me a better way. Voila. So the spiritual tools that I'm going to be sharing with you throughout, the course of Monday through Friday. So today is Friday, are the Bible, and I tell you the story before and after that, and also the AA spiritual program, and that stands for Alcoholics Anonymous, 12 spiritual principles, 12 spiritual traditions, 12 spiritual concepts within a spiritual fellowship. See, and I have learned that when I hollered out, I surrendered. That was my knee-bound experience, if you want to call it hidden bottom. But when you surrender, you only surrender once. And that was my one and only surrender, because all the other ones were in preparation for the one and only surrender. You got that? Okay. So once I got involved and still involved in my Alcoholics Anonymous 12-step program around the world, you hear me? And so I began to practice these principles in all my affairs, right? Then I was introduced to Benjamin Twin Brown, the late Benjamin Twin Brown, on the Spiritual Revival Hour, where he allowed me to share my testimony, to share my recovery, to share how I went from darkness to the light, and had my own TV show called Choosing a New Way of Life, sharing the possibility of being set free to give hope to others. And so with his songs and words of inspiration, consolation, meditation, and education, I was filled with additional wisdom. I was filled with additional spiritual guidance. And therefore, I include him in my process, right? Then I was introduced to the church of my affiliation, Canaan Baptist Church in Newcastle, Delaware, where my pastors First Lady Debbie Bullock and her husband, my pastor, Dr. Christopher Allen Bullock. Wait till y'all hear that story in person. And then I was able to be introduced to the 4 agreements, but it's really 5 agreements by the Uiz family. So I'm sharing with you some of the resources that are spiritual in nature that help me sit before you as I am today, being as transparent and authentic as possible. Why? Because underneath that parked car, I was broken and I was broke. And then finally introduced to Dr. Sonia with transformational teachings that are spiritual in nature. She is from P3 Global. And so I thank Dr. Sonia for giving me the will and the strength to say, I'm out, I'm coming out, and I'm going to invite you into the room. What room am I talking about? I'm talking about this room right here. So I am going to invite you to a free seminar, but it's really a conversation on April the 27th, Saturday, April the 27th at Canaan Baptist Church, right? From 2 to 4 p.m. And I'm going to share with you in person the energy and the atmosphere of spiritual recovery and what it feels like, which is different from being in person and being here in front of this camera, okay? And so mark your calendar, Saturday, April 27th, 2024 from 2 to 4 p.m. I am creating an invite, Eventbrite, so that y'all can register. You can register individually, or if you belong to a rehab, a transitional house, a mental institution, a church, an organization, you can sign up for free as a group as well. And so the whole purpose is to share with you my spiritual resources and tools to help with my brokenness and being broke. So mark your calendar. We'll be talking about this, providing agency, then you can be a vendor. Yes. Let me put that up here too. So if you want to be a vendor, hold on 1 second. All right. Here it is right here. You can sign up on the Eventbrite as well. So the event is free to individuals, but if you are a service providing agency, you are welcome to set up a table, and we will charge you a fee, and more importantly, so that you can disseminate your information. And just as important, I'm going to have on standby a psychiatrist, a psychologist, a counselor, mentors, sponsors. Any event through my conversation and through my sharing, someone is touched and someone is triggered in any way, shape, form, or fashion. We want them to get the help right then and right there. Yes. And so I'm going to have those individuals on standby in the event that someone needs a hug, someone needs a conversation, someone needs a shoulder to lay on, someone needs to allow somebody to hear what's in their heart, because for so long we have been concealing things that we need to reveal, which has stopped us from healing. And so all that is going to happen on Saturday, April the 27th, which is my sister's birthday. So let's get into our topic today. Okay, so let's go. So y'all know, you all know that the first thing that I usually share, right, is what the AA topic is for today, and what our discussion will be. So it's going to be on step 4. Oh, and this is a doozy, but it's a good doozy, right? And it says, made a searching and fearless more inventories of ourselves. And I also shared with you that the steps came from the Bible, and the scripture that relates to step 4 is Lamentations 3:40. Let us examine our ways and test them, and let us return to the Lord. All right. So the next thing I want to share with you is how every morning I wake up and I prepare my givings and my worship to my Creator, who I did not know underneath that parked car, but I do know now. As a matter of fact, I'm obtaining my doctorate degree in biblical studies just to learn more about the God who met me, delivered me, and prepared me to be sitting here before you. So once I do that and I set up my podcast, and the first thing I do is get everything connected so that I can share with you what I'm going to be receiving today. And that's when I go to my AA meeting, and every day in one way, shape, form, or fashion. Yes, after 34 years, I still make my meetings. Yes, I celebrated 34 years on February the 23rd of 2024. I surrendered my life to God at the age of 34. And guess how old I am? 68. To God be the glory. And so when I go to my AA meeting, and when I go and I expect spiritual food, spiritual water, because I still hunger and thirst for spiritual knowledge and wisdom to continue on this path. And so in Alcoholics Anonymous, we have the daily reflection. And let me share with you what it says. March the 1st, daily reflection. It works. And that is from the AA.org. Go there and do your own research. And so it says here, it works. It really does. And that's from AA page 88. And the person in recovery shares their experience and perspective. It says, when I got sober, I initially had faith only in the program of Alcoholics Anonymous. Desperation and fear kept me sober, and maybe a caring in or tough sponsor helped. Faith in a higher power came much later. This faith came slowly at first, after I began listening to others share at meetings about their experience that I had never faced sober, but that they were facing with strength from a higher power. Out of their sharing came hope that I too would and could get a higher power. In time, I learned that a higher power, a faith that works under all conditions, is possible. Today, this faith plus the honesty, open-mindedness, and willingness to work the steps of the program gives me the serenity that I seek. It works. It really does. And so without going into a whole lot of examination, because I know I dissect each and every word. And so when I think about what I've been practicing for the last 34 plus years now, it has been a pathway from darkness to the light. It has been a progression of spiritual growth, spiritual wisdom, right? It has given me some spiritual tools and resources to find out not what's wrong with me, but what happened to me, so that I can allow the God to unravel this onions of layers and layers and layers and layers of stuff. Because at the core of that onion is my essence that's reserved for the Creator himself, where nothing and nobody can touch but him. And so when the student becomes ready, the teacher will appear. And it appeared on February the 22nd of 1990. And my first sobriety date was February the 23rd of 1990. So if I want to continue to believe and to have faith that this God chose me to remain on this earth, he needed to prepare me. He needed to mold and shape me for his purpose, for his will. And through the steps, I've learned that it works. Okay. So go to AA.org and look at all of AA's information. Okay. So now let's go to our topic for today. All right. And so I'm going to share with you. Let me go here. Okay. So, Here we go. Okay. So now it says, and I don't need this right here. So I make it more better. Okay. So AA step 4, and the comparative scripture is Lamentations 3:40. Okay, so step 4 says, made a searching and fearless more inventory of ourselves. Now, let's stop there. Now, if you were anything like me, let me ask you this question. When you hear the word inventory, what comes to your mind? I'm going to tell you what comes to my mind. Cans on the shelf, the number of breads on the rack, the different sodas in the case. That was the inventory for me. I never heard of the word take a fearless and more inventory of myself. But when I connected the dots, it makes sense. So when an inventory is taken, let's say in a store, they are trying to figure out what's outdated, what needs to be thrown away, what needs to be put to the front, what needs to be discarded, what needs to be rearranged. In other words, they're taking an inventory so that they can increase and improve their productivity. That makes sense, right? And so when we come into Alcoholics Anonymous, the steps are designed for us to achieve a psychic change. And so unless we are willing to do a searching and fearless more inventory, then we cannot achieve that psychic change. But remember, when we talked about steps 1, 2, and 3, he can't. I can't. He can. I'll make a decision to let him. Right? Those are the first 3 steps. Now, the first tangible step that we actually put pen to paper is step 4. So can I share with you, just let me get raw and authentic and transparent, and so once I put down the drink and I had allowed this process of recovery to take place because I was desperate, I was willing, and I was honest, and I had to be open-minded. And so when the higher powers, they were the facility and the people in it who encouraged me to go for long-term care, long-term treatment. And so when I think about that process 34 years ago, I'm telling you, I was done. I was done, right? And so I didn't want to go back underneath that parked car. So that was enough inventory for me to know that I didn't want to go back. Once I reviewed my life as it was then without the steps, I said, no. I want to find out what happened to me. Y'all said nothing's wrong with me, then something must have happened to me. And I attribute that to Dr. Alvin Turner, because when I had him on my TV show, he said that when the Western culture asked the wrong question. They always say, what's wrong with you? What's wrong with you? When in actuality, the question should be, what happened to you? That just makes a difference. And so when I began to engage in conversations with people that my God, unknowingly to me, put in my path for me to learn from, for me to present myself to them and say, help me. My knee bowing experience, right? My hitting bottom left me in a humiliating position, but which brought about humility that said, help me. That's inventory in itself. Do I want to continue to be humiliated with everything that goes with that? Or do I want to learn what true spiritual humility really is? Let me take that inventory, okay? And so when I did steps 1, 2, and 3, I had got a sponsor when I moved to Wilmington, Delaware, but I had been going to step meetings just to get an idea of which step was appropriate and to learn from it. And so when I got to Wilmington, Delaware, I thank God for my sponsor, because she knew that I was in a very delicate situation, right? And my second husband was dying of cancer. And this is the husband that took me off the street as a prostitute, as a crackhead, as an alcoholic. God used him to help me cross over into the life of recovery that's spiritual in nature, right? And so the fact that he was dying, we only been together 4 years, 2 years, I was in my addiction. The 3rd year, I went away for treatment. In the 4th year, God prepared me to take care of him. He was the first person in my recovery on hospice that God prepared me to take care of. That's a process too. I got to share a little bit about that. But when it comes to the 4th step, it was my sponsor who basically said, Edwina, this is a time for you to do your 4th step. You need to know how you became the way you became, how you think the way you think, how you act the way you act. your attitudes, ideas, and behaviors, your actions. Where did it all start? Where did it all come from? What happened? What happened? And you have to take your time, because when your husband died, even before he dies, you need to express your feelings, your thoughts, your fears, your hopes, your dreams. Now, as a result of doing that, right? Let me share with you that I had been taking an inventory way before that, because another sponsor in early recovery suggested I keep a journal. Now, a journal is a kind of inventory where I write down my thoughts and my feelings and what I did for the day, and I go back and review. And so I had the ability to record those things. But guess what? When I take my inventory even more, when I was 12 or 13 years old, I kept a diary. So you see, my writing skills started way back then, of keeping an inventory of my hopes, my dreams. And at that time, it was about an older man, right? And so I thank God that when I look back into my history, I do have examples of writing. I do have examples of sharing my feelings, my thoughts, my dreams, my hopes. I do have those things. And so at this time in recovery, disregard that feeling. At this time in recovery, when my husband was dying, that's when my sponsor suggested I take a searching and fearless more inventory, right? And I'm going to tell you, when I think about taking an inventory stock of my liabilities, my assets, right? Because I'm more than well, how can I say it? There's a lot of parts encased in this body, right? And so we got the arm, that the head. So they all work for the functionality of this vessel, right? But what about our spiritual, right? What about our emotions? What about our physical? What about our mental? All those things supposed to work, but for the good. However, in taking my inventory and being introduced to the 5 agreements later on, but this is in the beginning, when I took my very first 4th step. It took me 6 months to write my 4th step, right? Because I wanted to be thorough, and I wanted to be fearless, and I wanted to look at every crack and cranny. And so this is appropriate right now, right? It says here, listen, they say the 4th step is one that people want to close the door. They don't want to look. Oh, not me. I want to find out what happened to me. I want to find out why I think this way, why I did those things, right? And I learned early on about the various masks that I began to wear, right? And so let me share with you this. So in doing my inventory, this is what I did, right? The starting point was, what mask are you wearing? What mask are still there? Where did they come from? How did they start? And so these are some of the questions that we get and asked by situations and during our 4th step, right? What circumstances? I learned to be promiscuous. I learned to be flirtatious. I learned to be manipulative and all that, right? Within the first group that I belonged to, watching my mother and my father. I learned from my mother that I didn't want to be a passive woman, right? But I also learned from my mother how she got my daddy's attention by doing certain movements, certain gestures, certain eye contact, right? I learned from my dad how he responded. And so again, how did all that start? I needed to go back, right? Not to judge or to criticize, but to give me some clarity, right? My aunt, she was a prostitute. Yes, she was. She was a bartender and she prostituted. Yes, she did. Now, y'all can call it what y'all want, but I'm calling it what it is. I would see her, exchange money, and I would see her go in the back and come back with money. And I would see the guys fixing up their clothes and stuff like that. I even laid next to her while she performed an act. Yeah, so when I do my inventory, it's to find out what happened. Not what's wrong with me, but where those attitudes, ideas, and behaviors were first formulated. And guess what? And during my inventory, I found that out. I also found out that how competitive I am with women. I was jealous of my mom, right? Because of the attention she got. I was competitive with my siblings because I wanted my dad's attention. That was my daddy, right? But I also learned that my dad had another side of him that I didn't know. That was my daddy. I worshiped the ground he walked on. And so for so many years, I aimed to please him, to get his attention and his affection, right? To the destruction of my demise later on in life. Okay, so as you can see by me taking this inventory of myself in a moral sense, gave me some information about what happened to me. And so when I related, let's go back to here. When I related to, hold on, when I related to now the scriptures, right? It says, let us examine our ways and test them, supposed to be them, and let us return to the Lord. Okay, so I'm telling you, I was not a Bible thumping person. There wasn't a Bible in my house that I remember. And I'm telling you, when I went back in my inventory, right, and I remember how I had a disdain for the church, the pastors, the people in it. Yes. Why? Because I saw my aunt and others, right, go to church and proclaim this and proclaim that. And all the time they in the back. Guess what? My mother and father conceived my older sister on the floor in the bathroom. Okay. So I saw a lot of things. And so when they told me that the scriptures, right, help to develop the 12 spiritual steps, I was like, wow. So then they showed me the comparison of what it means. And so in Lamentations, it says 3:40, let us examine our ways. Edwina, why do you find the need to seek attention? Edwina, why is it that you want everybody to like you? Edwina, why are you acting that way this time and acting that way the next time? Edwina, do you even know who you really are? And so those types of exercises that prompt these questions, I get to answer in my fourth step. So one of the things that is important for me, right, is to learn what happened to me, not what's wrong with me. And so I thank God that now that I have a little bit more information about the spiritual process, I've learned, my daughter's over here making faces, y'all. I've learned that it is not religion, because religion is man-made, and religion has dominated man's thinking in a lot of ways. But if I really go back to my ancestors who were spiritual in nature, right? We were kings and queens, and we came from a wealth of spiritual knowledge and wealth. And so I had to go back in my inventory as far back as I can remember to find out how my ancestors, were developed, and what they passed on to me, and then what another culture took away from me. And as the Louise family talked about, it talked about we were domesticated, we were brainwashed, right? And guess what? For the purpose of serving somebody else, not for the purpose of serving our God, our creator, because most of us don't believe in God. But guess what? It ain't you and it ain't me. You got that? Okay. So let me close by saying, with this last thing here, it says, let us examine our ways and test them. Is me being manipulative, right? That's a test. What is my motive? What am I trying to hide? What am I trying to take for somebody, right? Or am I going to learn the fruit of the Spirit? Now that's something different, because listen, I ain't know fruit of what spirit, right? I didn't understand when they had the state stores that says wine and spirits. You drink our wine, you're gonna get a new spirit, right? And so in inventory, we are trying to replace those old spirits that occupy the same body with the fruit of the Spirit: love, long suffering, patience, tolerance. Y'all know the deal, right? And so I encourage you again to I'm gonna stop there, and to invite you once again to my event on Saturday, April the 27th, right, which is my sister's birthday, and the one that I will have some more to share on. But the important thing is, I just want to invite you into the room. If you think you can feel my spirit and my energy between this screen and this camera, wait till you get in the room with me. Yes, I'm cuckoo for Cocoa Pops. I did this whole session. With my teeth, with my dentures in. Usually I take my dentures out. Okay. And so as a result of being transparent and authentic, I love the fact that my God, who delivered me from prostitution, drug addiction, alcoholism 34 plus years ago, prepared me to be sitting here before you to let you know we do recover only if we ask for help. And guess what? Our God knows when we're ready. He knows when we're ready. And so when he knows we are ready, he will put the teachers in place for us to be taught. And then once the student become ready and the teacher appears, then there's another phase. The spiritual student will become ready and the spiritual teachers will appear. That's what it's all about. How do we apply spiritual principles to all of this stuff happening on this earthly journey? I ain't giving nothing and nobody the power to make me go back underneath that parked car. Hell to the no. No. But through the spiritual resources I have used, I am well on my way. And I want to share that with you coming April the 27th, 2024 at Canaan Baptist Church, right? So that I can let you know, be set free from recovery, emerge empowered. To do what? To give hope to others, help others prosper equally. We are all God's children. But guess what? Many are called, but very few are chosen. I'm so glad I was chosen. If it's God's will that we be reunited tomorrow morning, I will see you there. In the meantime, be of service to somebody just for the day. Tell them you love them, hug them, a smile, even to a stranger. Say, how you doing, Holmes? You don't say, Holmes, my name's Johnny. Well, you know what I mean. So y'all get my drift. I love you. I love you. You love me. We are one big family with a great big hug and a kiss from me to you. Won't you say you love me too? See you tomorrow.